It was raining the night I stopped existing. Not just outside, but inside that house. Inside their hearts. My name is Claire. I was 18. Old enough to know better. Naive enough to still believe that maybe, just maybe, my parents would choose me. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, fists clenched, voice trembling but sharp. I'm not your maid. I'm not your punching bag. I'm your daughter. My brother, golden boy of the house, sat smugly at the dining table, spooning. Soup like none of this involved him. Of course it didn't. He was the sun. I was the shadow. My mother didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She wiped her hands dry on the kitchen towel and said it like a closing statement. You're no longer welcome here. No shouting. No emotion. Just clean, surgical rejection. My father didn't speak, not even a glance. He just turned away, quietly, casually, like I was background noise being turned off. The silence that followed, it wasn't empty, it was full of finality. I remember blinking hard, trying not to cry. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction. I grabbed my backpack, the same one I used for school, and walked out the front door. No one stopped. Me. No one called my name. No one even closed the door behind me. The rain hit my face like cold slaps. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a place to go. But I had the truth. I didn't run away. I was removed. They would go on to tell the story differently, that I was difficult, rebellious, that I left of my own will. But they'd leave, out the part where they never once asked why I cried myself to sleep for years, that I cooked dinner while they praised my brother's soccer medals, that I cleaned up blood from my own split lip while my mother said, "Don't provoke him." They buried the truth so well. I started to doubt it myself, until I remembered something, just a faint, flickering detail from that night. As I closed the door behind me, I heard them whispering, not to me, to each other. Do you think it'll hold up? As long as no one sees the papers, we're fine. Just keep it quiet. At the time, I didn't know what they meant. Maybe I didn't want to. I told myself it was nothing, one last insult as I left. But years later, I'd come to learn it wasn't just cruel, it was strategic. That night didn't just mark the end of my childhood. It was the beginning of a cover-up, one that would rot quietly, until I returned to rip the mask off. But that's getting ahead of myself, because first, I had to survive being erased. I didn't crash, I didn't burn, I didn't spiral. I built, brick by brick, breath by breath, in silence. The first year was the hardest. I slept in shelters, took showers at public gyms, ate peanut butter straight from the jar and called it dinner. I cleaned motel bathrooms during the day and restocked grocery shelves at night. People walked past me every day and didn't see me, just like my family, but I kept going. I studied in 24-hour libraries with borrowed textbooks and coffee I couldn't afford. I filled notebooks with formulas, cover letters, and dreams I couldn't say out loud. No one cheered me on. No one saw my victories. But I started to win, little by little. A scholarship, an internship, a job offer. By the time I was 25, I had keys to an apartment no one else paid for. My name was on the lease. My fridge had food I bought myself. I even bought a couch. Not secondhand, not stained, but new. Clean. Some nights, I sat on it and stared at the walls. It was quiet, peaceful, but also empty. No family photos, no calls, no birthdays. I had built a life, but it was a house with no echoes. No one remembered I was alive until they did. It came on a Tuesday. I remember because I was sorting mail after work. Bills, ads, a catalog I never signed up for. And then, a cream-colored envelope. No return address. Just my name, written in pen I could almost hear scratching across the paper. I opened it. Slowly. Inside. One sheet of paper. One sentence. I'm sorry. I should have protected you. Please come home. Dad. My breath caught somewhere between confusion and rage. I stared at that letter for hours, not because it moved me, but because something about it felt off. The handwriting was neat, controlled, too perfect, and familiar, in a way that made my stomach turn, not settle. It wasn't warm. It was rehearsed. It was the kind of penmanship my mother took pride in, precise, intentional, almost performative. I remembered it from birthday cards, from school permission slips she never signed until the last minute. Suddenly, the words meant less than the strokes behind them. I'm sorry. I should have protected you. He didn't even protect me the day I left. Why now? Please come home. Where was home exactly? It wasn't the house that shut its door in my face. It wasn't the people who stayed silent when I screamed. Still, I folded the letter carefully. I didn't throw it out, not because I forgave them, not because I believed it, but because it made me ask the one question I hadn't let myself ask in years. Did I ever mean anything to them at all? And I realized something. I wasn't going back for reconciliation. I was going back for proof. The neighborhood looked smaller than I remembered. The trees weren't as tall, the fences weren't as white, and the house, that house, looked like it had aged a lifetime, paint peeling from the siding, one shutter crooked, the front porch, light flickering like it had forgotten how to shine. Still, it was the same address. My hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel as I parked across the street. I sat there for a moment watching the front windows, wondering if they'd sense I was near. Silly thought. I was never seen in that house, only tolerated. I stepped out of the car. Gravel crunched under my shoes. With every step up the driveway, my heart beat like it wanted to run the other direction. I raised my hand, paused, and knocked. Once. Firm. No turning back. A pause. Then the door creaked open, and there she was. My mother, holding a plate in one hand, wearing the same kind of apron she always used to wear. Spotless, pressed, like she was always prepared for company. She saw me, and the plate slipped from her fingers, crashed to the floor, shattered into silence. Her face turned pale, like she'd seen a ghost. Maybe she had. Oh, my God, she whispered. It's you. Before I could speak, my father appeared behind her, thinner, paler, stooped like the weight of the years had finally bent him. He leaned on a cane I didn't recognize, but his eyes, those hadn't changed. They still didn't know how to hold me. He opened his mouth like he might say something, then closed it. Not a word. And behind him, stepping into view just briefly, was my brother. Taller, broader, dressed like he'd never left. He stared at me for less than 2 seconds. No smile, no nod, no, hey, just turned around. And walked away, like I was just another delivery driver with the wrong address. And still, somehow, my mother smiled. Come in, she said, like this was a surprise visit from an old friend. They invited me to stay the weekend. Said I could take the guest room, the one that used to be mine. The air was thick with false cheer, like they were acting out some script they didn't rehearse enough. Dinner was quiet, tense. My mother asked about my job, but not my life. My father asked if I'd kept in touch with anyone, but not them. My brother didn't come to the table. They were pretending. All of them. But the moment that broke me didn't happen at dinner. It happened later that night, in the guest room, when I opened the nightstand drawer. Inside, I found an old greeting card. Birthday. Faded pink cover. The kind my mother used to give me before she stopped bothering. I opened it and saw the handwriting. Neat. Perfectly aligned. Loops closed just so. And suddenly, I remembered. The letter I received. The one that said, I'm sorry. Please come home. Dad. It wasn't his writing. It was hers. Exactly hers. A chill crawled up my spine. My breath caught. He didn't write that. I whispered to no one. She did. They hadn't reached out because they missed me. They hadn't wanted closure. They had orchestrated my return, like setting bait. This wasn't a reunion, it was a setup. Dinner the next night tasted like dust. Not because the food was bad. My mother had always known how to cook with precision. Like everything on the plate had something to prove. No, it wasn't the food. It was the silence. That thick, syrupy kind of silence that coats everything when people pretend too hard to be comfortable. My father sat at the end of the table, pushing food around with his fork, eyes distant. My mother sipped her wine, too fast for someone who rarely drank, and kept asking questions that didn't matter. Do you still like that music you used to play? Is that apartment of yours downtown or mid-city? Do you still drink peppermint tea? Questions without weight. Designed to fill space. Keep it light. Safe. Then she dropped the line. As casual as a passing comment. We all had to move on. Some of us grew up. I looked up from my plate. Our eyes met, and for a moment, there it was. The cold glint beneath the performance. The reminder that this was never an apology. It was a transaction, a test, but I said nothing. I had learned to let silence do the talking. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house creaked in ways I didn't remember. The walls felt closer, the air thicker, like it was holding its breath with me. I stepped out of the guest room and walked down the hallway. Something pulled me, maybe instinct, maybe curiosity, past the stairs and toward the old study. The door was cracked open. Voices inside, low, hushed. I stopped and listened. It was my mother. If she helps with the treatment, we'll put her back in the will. She'll think it means something. Just act like it. My body went cold. My hand clenched the edge of the wall, grounding myself. They weren't asking me back. They were selling a place at the table, negotiating me like a name on a list. I turned, quietly, walked away. In the hallway, I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. A message from a cousin I hadn't seen since childhood, someone who'd always stayed on the outskirts, quiet and watchful. Hey, I thought you should know. You're not in the will. Haven't been for a while. But money changes things. There it was, in black and white. Not a welcome home, not a family reunion, a business deal. I sat on the stairs in the dark, staring at that message, letting the weight of it settle. You're not even in the will, but you want my money. Later that night, still wide awake, I wandered into the attic, just looking for space, for air. The attic had always been off limits when I was young. My mother said it was filled with mold and broken things. Dangerous. Not for me, but now I was grown, and danger didn't scare me. I pushed open the creaky wooden hatch and climbed up, using my phone flashlight to scan the space. Dust, boxes, old, chairs, a broken mirror, and then a locked file box, slightly open. Inside, an envelope. Confidential, scrawled in red ink. I opened it, a DNA test, 2 names. 2 results, 1 conclusion. My brother is not my father's biological son. I blinked, reread, checked again. It didn't change. My brother, the golden boy, the one they protected, the one they kept, wasn't even truly a part of the bloodline they claimed to value so much. And me? I was the only legitimate child, and the one they threw away. Suddenly, that night years ago, the whispers I barely understood made sense. As long as no one sees the papers, we're fine. They weren't afraid of me acting out. They were afraid of me finding out. They didn't just push me out to punish me, they erased me to protect him, to protect the lie. We all had to move on, she'd said, but they didn't move on. They covered up, and I was collateral damage, the silent casualty in their twisted little play. I stood there in the attic, the test paper shaking in my hands. They didn't just abandon me, I thought. They sacrificed me, for image, for shame, for secrets. And now they wanted me back? No, they wanted to cash in on the guilt they never felt. They wanted me quiet, cooperative, useful. But I had one thing they never counted on. I had the truth, and I was done keeping it buried. The invitation said, formal attire. I wore black, not mourning, not grieving, just exact. The wedding was held at one of those country club banquet halls, all white roses, soft jazz, and people pretending they'd always been close. I wasn't invited, of course not, but I didn't need an invitation to walk into a place built on lies. I'd been trained for it. As I stepped through the doors, heads turned, voices dropped to whispers, mouths hung slightly open, not in joy, not in welcome, just stunned confusion. Is that... No way. She actually came? I didn't smile. I didn't nod. I walked past them like they were ghosts, like I was the one returning from the dead. My mother spotted me first. She blinked twice. Her glass of champagne paused midair, her lips pressed into a tight, practiced line. She didn't say a word. My father was sitting in the corner near the bar, cane by his side, surrounded by relatives who didn't know a fraction of what he'd done. He looked up, our eyes locked. He flinched. I sat at the back, quiet, patient. The ceremony passed in a blur of silk and soft vows, fake tears, glittering smiles. Then came the speeches. One by one, family members stood with mics, recalling childhood stories, offering blessings, sharing memories that painted our family as something it had never been, whole, warm, honorable, and then they handed the mic to the floor. If any other family members would like to say a few words. The silence hung awkwardly. So I stood. Gasps rippled. My heels clicked against the polished wood floor as I made my way up. I took the mic, turned to face the room. Faces I recognized. Faces that had forgotten me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Family means showing up, I began. So I did. Some smiled, unsure where I was going. My mother's face froze. You told everyone I ran away, but you never told them why. You said I failed, but you failed me first. You said I disappeared, but the truth is, I was erased. A hush, a few coughs. My father lowered his head. I was 18, thrown out like garbage. No warning. No goodbye, just silence. I looked directly at my mother. And now, after all these years, you invite me back? Not with an apology, but with manipulation. I let that word sink in. Then, slowly, deliberately, I reached into my purse and pulled out a folded paper. This is the letter I received a few weeks ago, signed by my father, asking me to come home. I paused. Except he didn't write it. She did. Gasps, murmurs, my mother's face drained of color. She forged his handwriting. Set the stage, played the victim, all to get me here. I unfolded another paper. This one, the fundraiser receipt. And by the way, I already donated. Anonymously, quietly, 2 weeks ago. Not because I wanted a thank you, but because I wanted to see if you'd still lie, even after I helped. People began whispering, looking around. The facade was cracking. You didn't miss me. You missed what I could give you. You didn't want a daughter. You wanted an investor. I turned to the couple at the altar, to the bride and groom. I wish you better than what came before. You don't inherit the silence. Don't pass down the rot. I placed the mic back on the stand. My mother sat frozen, lips parted, eyes wide. My father, he was crying, shoulders shaking. But I couldn't tell if it was guilt or fear, and I didn't care. Because for the first time, I had said everything they'd worked so hard to bury. For the first time, I was louder than their silence, and it felt good. Not angry, not revengeful, just right. I walked out to the sound of nothing, no applause, no outrage, just the absence of their control, and that was enough. The night air hit me like a truth no one could hide behind. It was quiet outside, too quiet, after what I'd just left behind. The fake smiles, the shaking hands, the silence that followed truth. I kept walking, heels steady, breath calm. Then, I heard it, his cane, Soft, slow taps on the stone path. My father. He stopped a few steps behind me. I didn't turn. "Wait," he called out, voice thinner than I remembered. "We can fix this." I turned around, slowly, met his eyes. They looked smaller now, not sad, just exposed. "You can't fix what you buried," I said quietly. And then I saw it, the edge of a phone, barely tucked into the inner pocket of his coat, still recording, still red lit. Of course. Even now, it wasn't about reconciliation. It was about protection. Damage control, documentation. I took a step forward, leaned in just enough for only him to hear. "Make sure your lawyer hears this too," I whispered. "I'm not coming back. Not for the house, not for the name, not for you." I stepped back, looked at him one last time, then I turned and walked away. No tears. No one ran after me this time, and that silence, it was finally mine. They thought I was gone forever. Now, I am.